Yeah, so thank you everyone for your time tonight. It's good to see some familiar faces, but also some new ones in terms of from the last CPD event a few weeks ago, which was really enjoyable from a personal perspective, and hopefully the ones on it found some value from that as well. Tonight, obviously, Vinny and Lawrence will be leading it, but if you haven't been on it before, and I'm sure they'll reinforce it in a minute, it's a very sort of conversational based evening, in the fact that there's lots of opportunities for feedback like you have done already. So yeah, get involved as much as you can. Just, I suppose, if you don't know me, I sort of look after the marketing and communications at Cornwall FA and do some of the football development work as well. So Vinny and Lawrence, I'll pass it on to you now if you would like to lead from there.
Lawrence, go on.
Thanks, George. Yeah, I'm Lawrence Locke. Hopefully you remember me from the last one for the ones that joined us, and I'm a coach development officer focusing on diversity and inclusion. Vinny?
Yeah, and as you can see, guys, from the screen, my role is PE officer, actually for the Southwest, part of the PE team, which has got a very bespoke role supporting teachers, both at primary, secondary school, and also trainees at universities, and also doing some work linked in with the professional clubs, but very much their community programs. So there's our details. We'll share them with you again at the end of the evening. And if you do want to connect further, then please do so, whether it be through Twitter handles, emails, etc. Okay, George, anything else from you before we start to crack on?
I think the only other thing is just, I suppose, a reminder that we will be recording tonight. So yeah, if you want to sort of reflect and watch it back in the future days, that will be sent out from us at the County FA for your reference as well. But apart from that, yeah, off you go.
Great stuff. Okay, next one over to you then, guys. You've heard enough from us already. Another one in the chat box, if you will, and if you can try and spread everything just into one statement, okay, just to help us keep track of things. So Loz and George, you're on your mettle, particularly Loz. So you can see what it says there on the screen, and we're talking about you as you are now, as adults. If you can answer those questions as an adult in terms of one value, favorite musical band, and favorite thing you like to do with your time.
Go on, Vinny. What's yours while we're waiting for the chat box?
I'd say value is respect. Favorite musical band. If I was going historically, I'd obviously say the Beatles with the Liverpool link. I think Ed Sheeran probably at the minute, just in terms of a nice combination of some chilled out stuff and a bit of lively stuff. Kept trying to stay down with the kids, actually, Loz, with Ed Sheeran. Favorite thing to do in my spare time is spend time with the family. And if we can combine that with exercising together as a family or getting out in the fresh air, then that's me.
Brilliant.
What about you, Loz?
I think you've answered 1 and 3 for me. Exactly the same. Respect, family, spending time with my family is important. And then I'm gonna go across the M56 and go to Manchester and say my favourite band's probably is Oasis. Yeah, love their music, and yeah, I think still now the music's not too bad, is it? But yeah, favourite thing to do, playing with my son who's 3 years old. Yeah, trying to educate him and try and help him. At the moment, we're trying to learn how to ride a bike, so that's a big moment in his journey. But yeah, see Adam talking about the Killers, that's great. Spending time with kids, staying active, that's important. Integrity, that's a good one. Equality, sorry, that's great.
Yeah, some great responses coming in there, aren't there, in terms of both the values, the music, quite an eclectic mix. I think that's the word that we often hear, isn't it, on when we're talking music. So ranging from the Eagles to there was one there, Fu Manchu, UB40, the Killers, yeah, love it, Nickelback, and then we've got the playing golf, coaching and watching football. It's all in there. It's all in there. Bit of blues and soul as well. Love it. Love it. Okay, So guys, the screen is going to change. So have a look carefully and you'll see where we're going with this. So bit of reflection time there. George, going to go to you first because this is an easy one for you because you're certainly closer to teenage years than I am. I would suggest, and obviously Loz as well. But go on, George. Is there much difference between your first answer and this answer?
Probably not much difference, to be fair. I suppose the main one. So I suppose the value I had before was respect, and that still would have been important. Then probably, I suppose, more just being positive about whatever it is I'm doing would possibly be a bit more when I was a bit younger. Favorite music I put before Ben Howard, and it probably would have been the same then. But I suppose in terms of the favorite thing to do with my time then, perhaps more on the playing side rather than the coaching in terms of the football. Well, I was quite involved in my football playing, whereas now I sort of enjoy the coaching side a lot more, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's probably the only little differences. But yeah, who knows? In a few years it might change again.
Yeah, and I'm just zoning in Chris Ball. Thanks, Chris. Little bit of variation there on not on your value. You've highlighted respect again. I think I'm right in saying that there's been a change in your favourite band, maybe from Guns N' Roses to was it Coldplay, perhaps, Chris? Yeah. But the family and the football bit is certainly prevalent. What are you seeing, Loz? Any commonalities?
Yeah, I think just that playing football at that age. I think for us it was about playing. Especially as a teenager, I probably enjoyed more playing on the street. So just chatting to George and Vinny before we came in and started the webinar, that we just kind of played down this back alley that turned into it was like a T-shaped pitch that we played on, and we spent hours and hours playing on there. There was no coaching. We just turned up after school and we'd just play, heads and volleys, 60 seconds, cuppies, all that kind of stuff that we take for granted now. And we probably don't see that as much. Kids just playing on the street. Even at 16, we'd go and hang out, but we'd always have a ball with us, and we'd just replicate things that we wanted to do on a weekend when we did have a game. Brilliant.
And I'm just picking up a couple of light-hearted ones. This is my perception, guys. So Andy Bale, good to see the cider was popular during the teenage years. And I'm sure you still like a little tipple of that, mate. And there was somebody had mentioned about girls as their first answer. So I'm not sure whether that's your value, or was your value when you were a teenager, or whether that was your favourite pastime. That's from Webby. And Webby, we've got the note there that you're not Mandy Webb, but you are Webby. So all good. All right. Good. So guys, just a nice light start to the evening. And let's just consider what you're seeing here on the screen. And essentially what we're trying to do tonight is really link up anything that you've done during your time in coaching, anything that you've learned through doing your coaching awards and qualifications, but more importantly, being out on the grass from foundation phase to the youth development phase. And Loz, on the screen there, if we're thinking about that transition from foundation to youth development, what would be your main point about what we're seeing here on the screen, zoning in on the YDP phase?
Yeah, it's just, still understanding the individual needs of the players, and just because they're moving into a different phase, potentially different playing format, they're still young kids, and it's still about creating that environment for those players and ensuring that we still got play, practice, and really important that why do the kids come to football? Is it about the competition, or is it more about the social side? So if you look at the answers that we've got around when you were a teenager, it was about having fun, being with your mates, hanging out, any kind of sport, and just doing it for enjoyment rather than what people perceive that just because you get to 11-a-side that it's just about winning and winning the league and winning trophies and playing for county cup finals. And actually, when you think back to when you were a teenager, it was about just hanging out and being with your friends and really developing that social side?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that social side we'll delve into a little bit more, guys, this evening. If we think about the four-corner model and the developing people ahead of developing players, or developing people as much as we are developing players. And for me, just to summarize on here, you can see the top statement in terms of the ethos. Love the ball, love the game. Surely that doesn't change when a youngster, one of our boys or girls, moves from 11 years of age to 12 years of age. Surely that all of a sudden we're not throwing out all of that golden information that we've been advocating since they were 5. But now that they're 12, and as Loz says, transitioning from 9v9 into 11v11, oh, no, it's got to be really serious now. Surely the love of the ball and the love of the game has got to continue as a golden thread through everything that we do. So I'll leave that hanging there as a question mark. Guys, at this point now, can we encourage your observations and your questions into the chat box? So there's nothing really explicit where we're going to say the next 2 minutes is for you. But if if you feel strongly about something, if you're in agreement, better still, if you disagree, please pop something in the chat box, and it may well be that we dive down that rabbit hole. So just to give you 20 seconds to digest what we're trying to get from tonight. And I think, as you can hopefully see from that, we're zoning in on the youth development phase, 12 to 16. I've already mentioned about the whole child and whole player development. So you can see social and psych as a focus there. And Loz has already talked about the idea of play, practice, and competition. So quite a bit to delve into. As always with these sessions, we're scratching the surface, but hopefully we can get into some good stuff. All right, here we go then. A similar slide for those of you, and I'm looking at Rich, and is it Mike, Mr. Burnell? Martin, sorry. Martin, good to see you again. And you guys were on a previous session, so you've seen that slide before, and really we're saying, does it have to change that much from that foundation phase into youth development phase? So Loz, anything you'd like to pick up on there, just in a brief 30 seconds or so?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's still about building their love of the game, building their love of physical activity. Someone, again, I can't remember the name, but someone talks about different sports. And even at this age, they can go and try different things. And your role as a coach is, when they do come to you, just give them the best experience as they can. So when they do leave, they want to come back the following week. They want to play for you. They want to bring the mates. And even at 15 years old, they can still have an impact on their journey moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, again, some of you might recall, and this is me wearing my PE hat, that for me, the letters PE, play and explore. Surely we've got to continue to give our 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds the chance to have lots of play time. And by that I mean, during our practice sessions, let's try and ensure there's high levels of activity time and more from them and less from us. And that exploration piece, well, that comes into your practice design, which we're going to dive into and give you a couple of examples of what we think are some great games and practices a little bit later on. But for me, that PE, play, explore, from 5 years of age runs right the way through that secondary phase, and even then into the professional phase, as we call it, which is 16 through to 21, obviously with our older players. So it's important that we link all of this stuff together in terms of what our youngsters actually need. Okay, we're just going to move on to providing you with some examples of things you might consider doing and framing it around this concept of early adolescence. So you've got 2 questions there on the screen. And I think the one that I'd like to zone in on for now is this second window of opportunity. And if that's a phrase that you're thinking, what's that all about? We're going to dive in, and in a moment, we're actually going to show you or share with you a little bit of video footage. Loz, anything you want to zone in on there in terms of those two statements or those two questions?
Yeah, it's just that, you know, we talk about 5 to 11 being that crucial stage, but early adolescence can sometimes start as young as 8 and 9. So really, we need to start understanding our players and understanding our kids, and that they all develop at different rates. And for some of you, you probably all know this. You might notice this in some of your players now, that some are starting to go through that transition of adolescence, and your role as coaches is to start spotting that. If you can get that early, then you can start really helping your players through that transition, because they might suddenly change overnight, and your job is to help them socially, psychologically, but also technically and, more importantly, physically, because they might have a big growth spurt. And how do you go and develop that and help them with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, just coming on the back of that, the age group I'm working with at the minute is under 12s. So it's right in that cusp of moving from the foundation phase into the youth development phase. I said to you before, I've been coaching and teaching for 30 years, and I still find that age group a real challenge. Our practice session was Tuesday night, and I came away thinking that one didn't quite flow. And actually, the reflection dovetailed beautifully with tonight, because one of the things that I've been thinking about doing for a while is this. And our question to you is, have you ever done that? Have you ever found out what your players want from their football? And that's just a really open question. Loz, I've done it before when I set up a futsal program actually for the whole of the league, and I did a bit of a survey on that. But I've been meaning to do this for a while, and actually Tuesday was the trigger to say, do you know what? I'm going to put something in place. So, Loz, what do you think is the point of what we got there on the screen?
I think there's for me, it's understanding your players. I think at the start it's about, you can have so many different players and different variations of the players in across the across the 16, 17 coaches on this call. We've got to understand what the players want and why they come into football. And if you understand their needs and wants, it then helps inform your planning for the season, for the future. And if you understand that, then the sessions that you do put on will be more tailored towards them. So you might have players that really want to be there to develop and potentially be professional footballers because that's what they want to do. Or you might have players that want to be there that go, actually, I'm only doing this for fun and it's about my physical well-being. That's why I play football with my friends. So if I've got those two different players, I'm going to stretch and challenge them in different ways. And the more you get to know your players on and off the pitch, then one, it's going to be a better experience with them. They're going to probably remember you more because it shows that you care about them, and it gives them that autonomy and that kind of understanding that the football's about them and not about the coach. Your job as a coach is to provide that vehicle for them. Yeah, get on that vehicle and continue to stay on that vehicle through their football.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. There's a couple of comments coming in. So thanks, Giles. Giles is saying, no, you haven't. Boys are under 10s. And that's an interesting one, Giles. I didn't either. I've been working with my group since they were under 7s. Naturally questioning them, asking what they enjoy most, but not a specific survey. George is liking the idea in terms of greater engagement. Martin is under 16, very diverse and some interesting responses. So really good to hear that there are colleagues out there that have actually had a go at this. And just to show you the proof in the pudding, guys, there it is. I'm not going to show you the whole questionnaire, but that's something I've created very, very recently. There's 7 questions in there. The answers are trickling through at the minute, and they are really going to form. I don't know if any of you on the call tonight, if your season has been extended. Ours has for a month, for another 5 games. So, there's 10 episodes of play there, 5 practice sessions, 5 games. So I'm going to use what the boys say to inform what we do over those next 10 episodes. I think that's really, really important. Okay, so not trying to practice what I preach here. I'm simply saying that I think it's worthwhile. And of course, some of the questions, if I just showed you the whole version, is about what the youngsters don't like, what they'd like to change. And I think it's important that we give them the opportunity to share those thoughts. So we're moving on, and we're just about to get into a little bit of video footage. Before we do, again, you can see a question there on the screen, and it's about the development of your players in terms of the social and psychological side, which is really, really important. For those of us who've worked with youngsters at this age group before, from 11, 12 years of age, we know that there's a major development going on. There's lots going on in terms of adolescence. The impact of hormones is absolutely huge. So the social and psychological side is really something interesting that we need to delve into. So just going to share with you a video. Hopefully everything ticks along. George, Loz, just confirm if this is playing okay. Just coming through.
We used to think the shaping of brain wiring systems tapered off after early childhood. But neuroscience tells us the brain goes through another rapid phase of change from age 9 to 14, a second window of opportunity. Early adolescence is a crucial period for brain development, where many challenges begin to emerge. It is also a time of opportunity, when rapid changes can be harnessed to set adolescents on a positive path. Puberty initiates intense hormonal changes when the brain is forming better and faster connections between systems, improving the ability to make decisions, solve problems, understand consequences, and to gain more control over emotions and behavior. At the same time, the adolescent brain goes through a period of greater sensitivity to social evaluation and emotional reactions. Increased sensation seeking, interest in social relationships, and exploration of identity all begin to emerge. Early adolescence brings on broadening experiences, acquisition of new skills, and formation of social networks that will have lasting impacts for the rest of a young person's life. To learn more, download the new publication, The Adolescent Brain, a second window of opportunity, on the link below.
Cool. That's it. So guys, any comments into the chat box that you feel might be relevant? And as you're going for that, Loz, any thoughts in terms of anything that's jumped out from that brief bit of video footage for you?
Exploration and acquisition of new skills. I think at this age, when you know that the second window of opportunity, we can really go and stretch and challenge our, but at the same time understanding where they're at, how they take it. And then the key one is understanding how long they've been playing football for. So you might have under 12s in your team who are technically playing 11 aside, but they might have only been playing football for a year. So really consider that if you do push them and stretch and challenge them. However, you might have some kids that, you know, like Vinny, your kids, for example, you've been working with them for 4 years because you really know those players. So you know when to stretch them in the right way. And that goes down to not necessarily about the games that you do, but more about your understanding of those players and how they take on new challenges, because some will love it, some will probably shy away from it. So that's really important when it comes down to your planning.
Yeah, thanks, Loz. Loz, your signal was in and out then. I think we got most of it. Just to be we'll keep flagging it up for you. If it becomes too glitchy, you might have to jump across or drop in and drop out and drop in. But guys, if you just think about that bit of video footage and the link, you'll obviously get the slide deck and the link that the video was suggesting to go to next. I watched that in preparation for today, and there's some really fascinating stuff in there. And we're not trying to turn anyone into a psychologist, but we know how important the psychology of sport and performance and child development really is. And I think for me, we talked before about 5 to 11 being the golden age of learning. And I think it's important that we simply recognise, as Loz has said, that this is a second opportunity. But I would say it's different, because the youngsters in that age from 12 to 16, because of everything we've already said, that period of adolescence, they are turning from children into young adults. And we can all remember those days. And I think, just summarising what's on the screen at the minute, we're all unique. And therefore, trying to individualise our approach with our young players is really, really important. And that uniqueness is that some of them will be early developers and some of them will be late developers. So I'm really looking forward to my age group at the minute as we transition into under 13s, because some of them are going to be developing physically, rapidly, and some of them won't. Some of them will be developing really well with their social skills, and some of them will be quite immature. And so we know within our group, there's always going to be that challenge. So let's take it to a practical position. When we talk about interventions, how can we individualize them? I think that's really, really important. Okay, Loz, anything in the chat box before we push on?
Yeah, some really good ones. And just looking at Nick, that talks about different growth spurts can really affect coordination. And that's a really good point, because I remember I was chatting to Vinny about this. I remember having a player that in foundation phase, he was a really, really strong player and he did really well. And at the club, we were like, yeah, he's going to really push on. And when he got to under 14, he just had a massive growth spurt and his movement patterns just kind of changed overnight, and he couldn't turn as quick and he couldn't change direction as quick. And as coaches, we needed to recognise that. So rather than dropping him and saying, oh, we're going to release you and you're not going to get a contract next year, it was more like, how can we work with you? So we had to really develop him in terms of getting his movement right, get him to understand his body a little bit differently, still playing him in games and not necessarily taking him off all the time. It was just really working with him individually. So giving him loads of little challenges that can really help him in his coordination, and doing, even in training, we used to take him out on the side and say, let's just work on some tag games where you need to move in different directions. So really going back to the 5 to 11 games, that he's still to get him to understand his body a little bit more. And sometimes as a coach, you need to just recognise. And if we'd have stopped him playing and then, not starting him as much, it could have really had a massive psychological impact on him. And then socially, what would his friends have made of him? Because he's gone from being the best player to now one of really struggling, and socially might have dropped down in the group of his friends. So we really need to look after that situation.
Yeah, and one thing we know for sure, Loz, and for everyone on the call, development is non-linear. It's full of peaks and troughs. And we'll all recognise that youngster that we've worked with who has a spell where you think, is this the same child? And I call it the Bambi effect, whereby all of a sudden, because of a massive growth spurt, coordination's gone. It's like Bambi on ice, but it will soon come back. And the best example I can give you of that, guys, in my early teaching career, I had the pleasure of working with the England schoolboys, and there was a 14-year-old involved within the trial system at the time, the best 110 youngsters throughout the country, and his name was Stephen Gerrard. And he never got into the England under 15 schoolboys because he was a tiny tot. And there were other lads in that same age group, a guy called Michael Carrick, who wasn't bad. And he was just more developed physically and as good on the ball, you would argue. And then Stephen Gerrard, as we know, if anyone's read his backstory, he then made massive progress and ended up in the Liverpool first team by the time he was 18. But he went through a growth spurt from a tiny tot to a 6'1", 6'2", and he missed a lot of football when he was 16, 17 years of age. So my point being, we've got to stick with our youngsters. We've got to keep the faith. And Rich, I love your point. So Rich, you've talked about keeping those messages as positive as possible, because the way the brain develops, this is a time and age where we can really impact how our youngsters feel about themselves. And you're right, Rich, it is called myelination. Yeah, so myelin, they're those neural pathways. And I'm just going to pause on that one for now. Yeah, and if anyone's thinking, where's Vinny gone with this? It's a fascinating field, guys. So if you want to read around it more, Loz, give us a reference. I'm thinking the talent code. I'm thinking bounce. Any from you, mate? Any reads that people might want to dive into?
Yeah, I remember getting this. I got taught this on my youth module, and the way Sarge, one of our colleagues, taught to us. Myelination is, when you walk across a field and you walk across that same path on the field, that's where that path's going. If we can do those paths in the child's brain and have that reinforcement, then that's the myelination, because they're going to remember. It's a bit like driving a car. You tend to do things without thinking, and if you can get that into the football, then we're on to winner. So that's the Loslop version.
Yeah, brilliant. And guys, I can see some of you typing away. If you've got any references that you've read, so Rich, I'm zoning in on you there. The fact that you've actually mentioned myelination in there, there's obviously some good knowledge in the locker. Feel free to share with the rest of the guys on the call, and of course that's open to everyone. So listen, we're trying to link from foundation phase to youth development phase, and at foundation phase we talk about playing with freedom. And I've already asked you the question, does that mean as soon as the youngsters reach 12 years of age, things have to change? Well, I'm going to leave the next bit of video footage to somebody who might be better placed to talk about how important playing with freedom is. So here we go.
The definition of play with freedom probably lies with the player, because he or she has to understand what that means to them. So the first question we ask them is, when they come into a camp, is, what does play with freedom mean to you? Then they will come back and probably say something different. Everyone will, because their journey's different, their position's different, their experience is different. So for instance, a goalkeeper might say, my definition of play with freedom is, I will make a third centre back when we're in possession. Fantastic, that's his. Another one might be saying, being able to play the passes in all areas of the pitch, where he might have been restricted in another life, if that makes sense. It's all determined by the individual, what their sort of perception. From a coaching staff point of view, our perception is really about state of mind and their feeling. We want the shirt to be light, not heavy. So it's really important that they're able to express themselves. It's not a positional thing about play with freedom, it's more about a feeling in their mind and their body.
Wow. So guys, just in case you're not sure, that was Kevin Betsy, who currently works with the England under 16, 17 age groups. Loz, if it's okay, I'm going to jump on one phrase there. We want the shirt to be light on their shoulders. What a powerful statement. Now, my question to all of us, now including myself in this, I'm out there on the grass with an under 12 age group. We're now playing in leagues that are published. Is the shirt light on their shoulders on a match day compared to practice session? Or does it change? Yeah, think about our behaviors. Should it be exactly the same, whereby from practice session to match day, the youngsters are encouraged to go and play with that freedom? Great big question mark, guys. And I'm not stood here just because I'm wearing this saying that on match days I always get that right. But I just love that phrase. Really powerful. Loz?
Yeah, and I think that the key bit for me was, what does it mean to the player? So again, for the ones that have doing that survey, or just chatting to them, what does it mean? Because it does mean different. It's different when you're 10 to when you're 16. So you might have known these players and they might love expressing themselves, but it might change as they get older. And yeah, I think it's that two-way relationship with the players is important. So allow them to explore and understand where their capabilities lie. But more importantly, it's about them as individuals.
Yeah, brilliant. And guys, just there's a new screen up there for you, a new slide, and those things. Loz has mentioned the word explore. I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole again about PE, but we believe it's so important. But it's so important on match day as well, to give the youngsters the opportunity to explore within the heat of the battle as they're playing, maybe as one of your rolling subs, at half time and full time. That, for me, I talked earlier about episodes of learning. It's important that we actually connect our practice sessions to our match days. Talks on there about continue to improve fundamental movement skills. Just when the youngsters get to 12, and if we have got any teachers in the room, fundamental movement skills is a key part of national curriculum PE from 5 to 11. But it doesn't disappear as soon as the children walk through those secondary school gates. No, sorry, I cut across you there, mate.
Oh, no, just linking in. So Webby just talks about, as a coach, we try and make it light, and that's fantastic. And players make it heavy. So again, is that something socially you can work with the players? To actually, just because it's a game doesn't mean, you know, you've got to have all the weight on your shoulders. And, you know, your role as a coach, again, is to go, actually, the match day doesn't change. I say to the kids, match day was just an extension of training. And it just changed the mindsets of players just from saying that. And the score doesn't matter at 12 years old. As long as you can apply what we did in training into the game, then that's winning for me. And if you can get that buy-in from the players, I think you're onto a winner there.
Yeah. And guys, I'm just going to share with you one of my thoughts. When I talk to coaching colleagues, maybe from other teams in the lead up to a game or a match day, and I always talk about the fact that I'm not that interested in the result. I'm interested in the performance. If anything, I'm interested in victory with values, doing things the right way. I talked earlier about respect. And the word competition, when I do get into a bun fight with anyone, I actually then delve into a little bit of the etymology, the meaning of the word, the derivation of the word. So just one for you. You can take it or leave it. Competition comes from the word competire, which is Greek. Yeah. And it actually means to strive together. So on a match day, if we're playing in a game that's got to 10-0, are we still striving together? Is that still competition? Because I'd say for the team that's 10, it's too easy. And for the team that's 0, they've given up. So just one for you to consider in terms of what does a positive outcome mean on a match day. And there's some really good stuff in there. Rich is actually talking about the freedom to allow the youngsters to make decisions. And Rich, you've also referenced coaches who never stop instructing. We call them PlayStation coaches. Yeah. We won't dive down that rabbit hole now. I think that's a whole session on its own, isn't it? Okay. Guys, we're batting on. We're doing well for time. We did say we wanted to share with you a couple of example games and practice design. So one final slide before we go. Let's remember that our youngsters, they're still not adults. That's really, really important. They are children. The scaffold and the learning is so important, as it says there. They are in a massive period of change, both physically, psychologically, socially, and also technically, tactically. So be mindful of that. And the individual contributing to the team performance, for me, is really important. I use the concept of team with my youngsters. Together, everyone achieves more. I'm sure you've come across that before, but together, everyone achieves more. Okay, Loz, we're going to dive into these activities. So do you want to kick us off with this one, mate, with a little bit of an explanation? Give the guys obviously an opportunity to see it. It's the 5-goal challenge. What are we thinking here, Loz, in terms of our development phase players?
Yeah, so again, going back to that freedom, expressing themselves, you know, giving them opportunity to explore. I'm just trying to look at the notes that I've wrote down for tonight, and acquisition of new skills. So we're still going to go through that games-based approach. And I'd just go back to when I was a kid and I was playing. I remember we'd always loved shooting and loved like finishing sessions. And the finishing sessions that I used to do was we'd get in a massive line, we'd play it to the coach, and it was always right foot finish, left foot finish, then it'd be a volley, then a header, then a cross and finish. And it got really boring. And the way we do it here is, if you look at the bottom of the page where it says other goals, essentially you're trying to get them to come up with different ways to score, and essentially, you know, allow the kids to come up with these. So we've got 5 there, so a combination of first time finish and nutmeg, and everyone scores. And it's just a different way for them to still work on finishing, but it's for a game. They're allowed to problem solve. There's a strategy around how they're going to do it. And and then you might even allow them to go, actually, a one-touch finish is harder to do than just a normal finish. So it might be you give them more points for that. And then the tactical bit is actually, if you do split the game into thirds, you can then, still allow them to play through the thirds to create those goal scoring opportunities. So again, your first session of this might just be, you're going to allow them, here's 5 ways to finish, you go and crack on with it. You might play that for 5-10 minutes, and you might then move on to it where you go, actually, kids, you come up with different ways to score, and they can be creative with that. One of the kids used to tell me a sweaty goal. If you score a sweaty, that's worth 3 points. But essentially, it's take it around the keeper, pass it, and they score. So it's Vinny's put in there footy bingo. So that's another game that essentially you've got 9 different ways of scoring. And my team's playing against George's team, and whoever scores 3 in a row, like you do in noughts and crosses, wins a game, rather than just having a game at the end of training. It's another way to really enforce that learning within your session. The kids love it at any age. So even with foundation phase, you would play it, even up to adults. I did this with a group of adults not so long ago in my dad's football, and we just did it one night, and they were like, oh, this is quality. I wish we did this when we were younger. So everyone loves scoring goals, but it's a different way to be creative. Toe poke. How many times do we teach kids to toe poke a goal? But it's probably the most uncommon way and unethical way back in the day. Like, you don't use your toes, but actually it's probably one of the best. It's my favourite finish because it catches everyone off guard. So yeah, really good. And a nutmeg. I love megging people, but if you can meg the keeper, even better. So yeah, I love this type of game where it gives freedom and creativity, not just you as a coach, but also the players as kids as well.
Yeah, and guys, just the practicalities of that footy bingo, as Loz was talking through the slide. So if we take those examples, right foot, scoring with right foot, scoring with left foot, scoring with one touch, scoring with a header, scoring with a volley, scoring with a combination, so I'd call that a 1-2 to make it more explicit. Scoring with first touch, that's at the top, including a nutmeg in the build up to the goal. If I pause there, we've almost got 9 options. So what Loz has mentioned there is you can either write them on a whiteboard. The youngsters can write them on the whiteboard. They can create their own. Of course, the fly in the ointment is when it's raining. You might say, well, this doesn't work, Vin. But actually, we've got examples where you can produce it as a Word document, laminate them. And basically, if I'm playing against Martin's team, Mark, you're on my screen right in front of me, and I score, let's say, with a volley, I've got to run off the pitch to my laminated board behind your goal, or a laminated A4. And if the weather allows, I've actually got to cross off that I've just scored with a volley. Whilst I'm doing that, you guys carry on. Martin, you carry on. You're now a player up. So go and make the most of that overload. So there's all sorts of stuff in there. There's loads of player ownership. And if you think, well, what about in the bad weather? Well, just get your laminated template and actually use your magnets off your magnet board, and they can actually just sit them on top. So it can be done in a practical way and loads of fun. And I think Loz has just chucked one in there for us. So footy bingo, the last to our 5-goal challenge, loads of player ownership, loads of opportunity for us to do our drive-by coaching, and linking it back to what Kevin Betty said earlier, playing with freedom. Loz, anything else before we move on to our next one? I'll take that as a no. Loz is frozen. He's out. It was going so well. Right, here we go, guys. Okay, so if I pick this one up, again, just have a little look. And notice these are very simple game designs. There's no rocket science to this. Empty the net. You can see what's going on. Each team has got 2 footballs in the net. And essentially, what they've got to do in playing just a normal 5v5 game, as soon as they actually score a goal, that ball stays in the goal and play is restarted from the goal scorer's net. Okay, so if we score a goal, we've started to empty our net, the ball stays up there, and we go again from our net. That's the reward. So again, a really simple concept, just in terms of making it a little bit more fun and a little bit more engaging, with the focus there on playing out from the back. So we've scored a goal, the ball comes out of our net, we've got to play out from the back again. Hi, Loz, you back? And you're on mute.
Sorry, don't know what happened. I need to put 50p in the machine to get my broadband working again.
Anything on this one, Loz? Any thoughts?
This is like in terms of social and psychological development. You know, when you play this and you know a team's got one ball left, and the game just changes and shifts because the emergency defending and you know, the kind of bond and the teammates working together is really fascinating to see. And we talk about someone put about the shirt gets heavier on a match day. You know, this is as close to a match day situation that you can get, because essentially if they concede a goal, they've emptied their net, and you should just see the way that teams start defending and looking to try and counter. And it's really fascinating because you see leaders come out in this, because you as a coach, you then become a facilitator because you just want to watch and observe and see how they do. So yeah, this game's great, not just for the technical, tactical and the physical, but more importantly for the social and the psychological. I love watching the kids play this one, just because it just brings out so much attacking, defending, transition, as close to a game as you can. And it goes back to that, you know, if you do end up in a cup final, you know, this is like a cup final when, you know, Vinny's team's got one goal to score. There's no goals in their net. We need to win it back and put it in their net. And now we're back in the game now. So yeah, it's really good for the kids, this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Loz. And guys, again, you're going to get this shared with you. Somebody earlier talked about what maybe does change as the youngsters move from foundation phase into youth development phase is our use of language. And I'm seeing there that if you consider this is about in possession, it's very much about that phase of the game. And I'll share a little funny anecdote with you. Just a couple of years ago, I started talking to my, what would have been under 10s then, under 9s, under 10s, about in possession. And we went to a Q&A where I asked them to pair up and have a little chat. And I heard one little fella actually saying, yeah, so obviously I like to play left back, but sometimes I don't mind playing in left midfield. And his understanding of in possession was actually in position. So fascinating, again, when we think about our youngsters' development, the language that we use, and making sure, number one, that we keep it simple, and number two, they understand it. Now, I'm picturing that little fella now as an 11-12-year-old, and he understands in possession, maybe because we've worked on it a bit, but he's just matured, and obviously his language and his grasp of what he may have seen to be a complicated word is much better. So just be mindful of the language we use. And at the bottom there, you can see when we're talking about team tactics and strategy, playing forward when possible. Remember in our first webinar, we talked about playing like a meerkat. That doesn't change, yeah? Because remember, it helps to keep the game simples. And being simple is actually, can we see our options and can we play forward? And also attacking with speed. So guys, just a couple of ideas there. Of course, you'll have loads of them in your locker. And I think my final point, Loz, on this, we've just shown you a couple of game examples. We're not suggesting that's your whole hour or hour and a half. What we're suggesting is, particularly during the winter months, that the game can be the main structure. It may well be that you're doing whole part whole. So this game here in front of you, for me, you could actually very easily turn that into some 3v2s going across the pitch at some phase in the game. Obviously, if it was saying 5v5, including the keeper, obviously you could have a keeper as a target player, etc., etc. So the whole part whole session design is something that lends itself really nicely in here. But again, that whole concept of playing with freedom. Okay, guys, I'm mindful of time. Loz, is there anything in the chat box as we start to wrap up that we need to pick up on?
I think Webby's put the practices that we have got, they're really simple and effective, and that's really important, that we don't confuse us as coaches, but also we don't confuse the kids with too many rules. Yeah, like Vinny said, you will modify, you will steel, you will do it in your own way, and don't just think this is how to do it. Go and have a go at it, modify, steal, change. That's great coaching in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm just going to start to wrap us up with this one, Loz. Guys, this is a statement that was derived from a lady called Maya Angelou, a female American black activist. She's no longer with us, but she was a great public speaker, a poet, and she actually coined the phrase in terms of people actually knowing, or they're interested in what you know when they know that you care. They care what you know when they know that you care. And I think that little statement there is all about what Webby said about keep it simple, sweetie. And that was her coining on the phrase. You may have heard as keep it simple, stupid, which I don't particularly like, because it sounds if you're, giving somebody a bit of a hard time. But keeping your practice design really simple, again, for the youngsters in front of you. Okay, so let's start to wrap things up. The whole concept of play, practice, and competition. You can see there's a few things for us to consider as we move forward in this youth development phase. Play and practice and match days, I would argue, how different are they? How do we frame them for our youngsters? Competition, I've shared with you my thoughts around the word competition. We should enjoy those games which are really close. Somebody mentioned again earlier in the chat box about when games are tight. They lost the game on Saturday, but loads of good things were happening from practice sessions. Training and match days, the variety and volume of actually what you're providing. And obviously, as we move into playing 11v11, it's talking about the variation of formats and competitions. And also, and we've run out of time on this, how does it change in terms of allowing players to try different positions? Because that's something we certainly encourage in 5v5, don't we? How does that look as we move to 11v11? Okay. Loz, I think I'm going to pause there in terms of any more slides. There's a lot of information in there for us to pick up on. We're just getting beyond 8:30. Anything from you, Loz, as we just go to our next steps and then invite people to stay on for a few minutes afterwards if they'd like to?
No, I think this is some, when you get a copy of the slides itself, just have a look at these and think next time you're coaching, just have a look at your players and where are they on these 5 little points. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, mate. So guys, as always, we're really keen for you to go out and try a few things. And remember, as I said last time, if you feel as if it fails, that's the first attempt in learning or a further attempt in learning. So try again. Not sure if any of you last time shared a few ideas back with your coaches. I've had the opportunity to talk things through. Always just trying to get people even into these sessions, and we're hoping these sessions are going to move to face-to-face very soon, where we can get out on the grass and put some of the things that we're talking about into action. You'll have our contact details if you haven't already. Please share your success stories, things that have gone well. And of course, we're very keen to hear the things that you're continually challenged with. And just a few links there for you to consider as we move forward in terms of the ongoing learning piece. Okay, contact details coming up. So many of you will know Martin Dighton, obviously, who lives down your neck of the woods. You can see there Martin's role is specifically around women's and girls development. We've already explained myself and Loz's role. So please do stay connected with us. Please do fire some questions in, link in with us on Twitter. And obviously, if you want to stay on for a few minutes, if you've got anything specific you'd like to ask about, then you're more than welcome to do so. But as always, great to have your company this evening. I hope you found that, I'm going to say deliberately thought-provoking, because a lot of it was around brain development and the psychological corner. George, anything from you as we wrap up?
Yeah, just a big thank you from me, I suppose. from my side in terms of the Cornwall FA. I'm just going to pop a link in the chat to our sort of sign up for our next CPD with you guys. If you haven't already, please feel free to get involved with that one. But yeah, really enjoyed it tonight, and I suppose a couple little coach ed updates in terms of our side. If you haven't seen already, the online safeguarding children and online first aid in football is now available, and you can find the links for that on our website. And like Whitney mentioned, this will be recorded and shared over the next few days, so you have a copy of the slides, but also you can reflect on some of the great content that they've covered tonight as well.
Thanks, everyone. No, thanks for joining. Thanks for giving up your invaluable time, and yeah, good luck with your sessions, and please let us know if we can help in any way. Thank you.